I'm going to officially call the meeting to order. Madam City Clerk, could you please do the roll call?
Mayor Goss,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi,
Present.
Councilmember Capocha,
I'm here.
Councilmember Del Mar,
I'm here in Redwood City.
Councilmember Harabedian.
Here.
All present.
Okay, I think it's my turn to do the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. If you'd all stand, please. Hands over your hearts. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Obviously, a lot of kind of heavy things going on in the world right now, but the one that's got our attention, I think, a lot is right out here in Santa Clarita. I happen to have a lot of family members out there, and a lot of them have had some very close calls. So I thought I'd put together a prayer with them in mind tonight. If you'd all bow your heads, please. Father in heaven, we pray tonight for those in the Santa Clarita area who are endangered by the horrific fire at their doorsteps. We pray for their lives and safety and for the protection of their property. We pray for the safety of the brave men and women who are fighting the fire, and for the police and paramedics and other public safety professionals who put themselves in harm's way in service to all of us. We pray for the health of all those, especially children, who are forced to breathe the smoke and unhealthful air created by the fire. We pray for the safety of all the animals in danger as well. And Lord, we pray that you would help our firefighters defeat this fire and extinguish it before it can do more harm to your people and to our beautiful foothills and mountains. We pray for this in the name of Almighty God. Amen. Amen. Okay. Madam City Attorney, would you care to report out a closed session?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The council met in closed session this evening to receive a briefing only on a matter of existing litigation, CETT, versus the city of Sierra Madre. And I want to mention for the record that Council Member, Mayor Pro Tem, Arizmendi did not participate in that closed session as she is recused from participating in that. The council received a briefing and provided direction, but no action was taken. The council also met in closed session with legal counsel to receive a briefing only on a matter of existing litigation, the case of Christopher Morrison versus City of Sierra Madre, and there was no action taken there. And finally, the council received a briefing from its labor negotiator regarding the status of negotiations with the Classified Employee Association. And it is likely, and it'll be up to the chair, that we may adjourn back into closed session to further that discussion after the open meeting. And that's the end of my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, let's have a look at the agenda. I'll take a motion for amendment or approval.
I'll move to approve as presented.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
We have unanimous approval. Thank you, Councilmember Del Mar. And approval of the minutes from July 12th.
Just, I have one question towards the end. Councilmember Arizmendi, when you made your proposal to agendize, the way it's worded here, to take a look at the legal non-conforming codes, what we're trying to do is look at the pre-existing non-conforming. Is that the way it was? I mean, is this accurate, legal non-conforming? Is that what was asked? Legal non?
That was the
Okay.
intent.
Okay.
Any other changes or corrections to the minutes? Is there a motion for approval?
I'll approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
That carries unanimously as well. Mayor and City Council reports. Who'd like to go first?
I'll go ahead and start. It's very brief. In Councilmember Del Mar's absence, I was the alternate for the JPIA annual board meeting, which is the Joint Powers Insurance Authority. And actually, the information is very minimal. There was some board member elections and some changes in the bylaws. But I think what was reassuring to see is information on the ADA pilot project that we're a part of. So it's good to know that we're part of that effort, and knowing that we will be able to address our potential ADA issues as we go forward, and seeing how the JPI can support us in the costs in that. That's it.
The Concert in the Park series is underway, and so is the Movie in the Park as well. So I'd like to thank I think that's Community Services Commission that oversees that. I went and saw the Johnny Cash cover band last weekend. They were awesome. And I think Elvis is coming up on August 7th. So, or is that right? Yeah, I think it's August 7th. So, yeah, I just encourage everyone to go out and either catch a movie or see a concert, because they're just great shows. It's hot, but it's a lot of fun. So that's all I have.
Okay, I have a couple of things. I haven't gone to one concert in the park yet
I've
this
only been to
summer.
one,
It's really,
Yeah.
hopefully for the few that are left, we'll get there. Just a couple of things from the Council of Governments, Southern California Council of Governments, is Assemblyman Holden is attempting to provide some help with the stormwater problem, but I'll just say honestly and just very bluntly, I'm just a little bit disappointed with what he's come up with. But he's come up with AJR 44, which is really just urging the federal government to provide more money. I don't think that's the solution at all, but I brought this up, but the other members of the COG says, well, this is just a first step. This is to get it on people's radar and things like that. But this is going to be in the consent calendar, so I doubt if anybody's going to even read it honestly.
Yeah.
But so he's trying to do something, but we need to, I think the consensus is that we just need to push to do more to help us with that. A couple other things. There is a Waters of the United States Challenge amicus, and the COG voted to ask the COG to write a letter of support of this, and this is to help us by these storm channels are considered waters of the United States that we're dumping our stormwater into. But the Clean Water Act designates those as fishable and swimmable, and they're not. And it's totally against what they were built for by the Flood Control Agency that says no fishing or swimming. So this might help to redefine how, what a waters of the United States is, and that would open the door for more shared regional projects instead of all of us having to create our own stormwater, capture system. So I think this is very promising. And also, Shane of the Water District, the San Gabriel Water District, has been working very closely as a representative of the COG with the staff of the regional board, and they appear to be making some progress to allow us to do a regional project than this crazy stuff that we've got in our EWIMP. So that's really good news. Okay, the COG is also supporting the LA County Transportation ballot measure, so there is a consensus on the COG that go forward. Next month, they're going to come back with for discussion on whether we're going to support the parks measure. Now, that one I'm not so sure of. They're going to vote on that before. We're not going to be able to agendize that. I'm just telling you in advance, I'm probably just going to abstain from voting on that because I know there's some folks in our community as well as our Community Services Commission that is against this. I personally am very much in favor of it, but I don't think it'd be appropriate if I vote in favor of it without us having a discussion on it, first. But we're not going to be able to agendize this before the COG votes on it. So I just wanted to mention that. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Councilmember Del Mar, do you have anything?
Well, I just wanted to thank Mayor Pro Tem for going to JCI for me, and also to update on my travel. I have one more week, and then I will be back in Sierra Madre the majority of the time, unlike the last 6 weeks. But I was able to attend with the Mayor Pro Tem and Mayor the grand opening of Petunias, which is a new store there on Baldwin, which is a vintage clothing and accessory shop. And so I would encourage everybody to visit Petunias and welcome them to our neighborhood. And that's all I have.
And that was what I was going to talk about as well. It was my very first ribbon cutting as mayor, which was kind of cool, in 104-degree heat and with a sport coat on. So not exactly cool, literally, but it was fun, and it looks like a really interesting business, and I just wish them well. Karen, the proprietor, seems like a really great gal. And my associate here, the council member, our Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi was there, Councilmember Del Mar were there, and I think we gave them a really fine welcome. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to confirm Elvis is in Sierra Madre on August 7th.
Okay. I'll sleep better tonight now. With that, let's open the floor up to public comment. Anything not on the agenda, please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Hi, Rich Proctor. I'm a trustee for the Sierra Madre Public Library, and I want to say aloha.
Aloha.
Looking very festive. It's really, it's just wonderful here. So anyway, I'd like to, I guess the first thing I want to say is lions and tigers and bears, oh my. I don't know how many of you were at the stuffed animal sleepover on Saturday at the Sierra Madre Library, but if you came late, you probably wouldn't be able to get in because there were it seemed like about 120 parents with their kids, and somehow the stuffed animals during their sleepover had organized an Olympics game in the library, which the library staff managed to get on film and show. It was just wonderful. It's exactly what we want to have in our community. It was a library full to bursting with parents and kids who are laughing and having fun and having a memorable experience, and I guarantee every one of those kids when they grow up is going to want to bring their kid back to the library to do that.
And
Second of all,
Trustee Proctor, if I may, and
Yes.
Director Baker, I apologize because my goddaughter had brought her stuffed animal, which is a purple dinosaur with a tutu, and I'd love to see if I can Photoshop it in because I was supposed to drop it off on Friday and I forgot.
No,
so
no.
I want to see the video, but can we just like throw in one picture?
I think you know people, so you could probably probably make that work, I think. Second of all, I have a number for you, 1,142. That is the number of people who have participated in library programs this summer. And another number, 597, those are people who have enrolled in our summer reading programs. There's a summer reading program for kids, there's one for teens, and there's one for adults. 597, that's significant. And we got 2 more weeks of summer activities. There's 2 art workshops and a puppet show for the last 2 weeks. And on August 5th and 6th, our wonderful Friends of the Library book sale is going to be happening. And there's something, I just want to mention one last thing. There's something happening in August that's quite interesting. We had a citizen who was, let's see, his name was Marvin Elmer Weiss. I don't know if you've heard of him. Lived in Sierra Madre for 38 years. He used to be the curator of the art for City Hall. And he spent 15 years of his life creating woodblock prints for a book called Early California. And those woodblock prints are going to be on display at the Sierra Madre Library during the month of August. So if you want to see 15 years of a man's work, you're going to be able to do that in August. And that's basically it. I have one final quote here. This is from my one of my favorite authors, is Neil Gaiman, who said, "Google can bring you back 100,000 answers. A librarian can bring you back the right one." Anyway, thank you.
Trustee Proctor, I just wanted to tell you, my son is in one of the reading programs for teens. He just finished Unbroken, which was one of our
Great book.
One Book, One City books not too long ago.
Yeah. Oh, boy, good.
It's a great program. He's got friends in it too.
Oh, good. I know. It's the enthusiasm over there is just wonderful. We're really having fun. Thank you.
Other public comment? Okay, hearing none. We're going to have a presentation by our director on the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District. It will be the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District Strategic Plan, and his name is Mr. Tom Love. Tom, thank you for coming.
Mayor Goss, members of the council, thank you again for the opportunity to address you. This is our annual addressing. After the end of our fiscal year, we like to come out and visit with our cities. I call it our State of the District address. And while it has been a very, very unusual, unprecedented year, I am pleased that we were able to all work together. And last time I checked, water is still coming out of my tap, thanks to your staff here at the city and the good work of a lot of people across the state.
Mr. Love, the question is, what color is the water coming out of your tap?
Clear.
Clear.
All right, technical support. So I'll be as brief as I can. I obviously want to update you on the drought and the water supply conditions statewide and locally, groundwater storage, the water that we have and plan to put into storage this year. I do want to say a few words about water conservation and the future of water conservation. Some of the things, activities we have out there in the communities to try and assist with the education and demonstration of water conservation, and then a brief financial update on the district. Our mission is to provide reliable supplemental water for the communities, the 4 cities listed there, in a cost-effective and environmentally responsible manner. We certainly feel we do it cost-effectively. Our water rate is the lowest in the region. And while it was close in the last year, we have been reliable. We are not part of MWD. I always like to point that out. I know the members of the council know that, but we are an independent state water contractor. And the water we supply isn't the full water supply for any of the 4 cities, but as a supplemental source of water to replenish the groundwater basin and local wells. So our facilities is the Delaware Canyon Azusa pipeline. At the end of that in San Dimas, we do have a 1 megawatt hydroelectric plant. That plant has reached the end of its useful life. It is maintained in pristine condition, but we are finding it difficult to find spare parts when they wear out. So we are currently completed a 30% design for 2 new hydro generating stations that will produce a little more electricity and give us an opportunity to deliver water at more strategic locations over near Azusa. State Water Project comes from the Delta. There's a lot of activity going on about the San Joaquin-Sacramento Delta and the conveyance of water through the Delta. You will certainly be hearing more about that over the next several years as the state, the Department of Water Resources, and the state water contractors are working on what they call the Delta Fix or Cal Fix. This is the driest 5 years on record, going into the driest 6th year on record. And you can see how the drought index has greatly affected us, the worst being in 2014 and 15. A little bit of a respite. We did not get the El Nino as predicted. They did get normal precipitation in Northern California, so it has improved slightly. Just more on El Nino, and also 2015 is the highest worldwide temperature recorded. So water supply update, statewide, there was some improvement. The reservoirs are 73% of average, 55% of capacity, mostly in Northern California. Snowpack for a period, we were right at normal, a little above normal, but then as the year went on, that declined. And our imported water deliveries, actually I think that should be, I don't think the 0% in 2014 is right. Last year it was 5%. This year, it is jumped up to 60%. For perspective, our long-term average demand on our supplemental water supply can be met at an average of 40%. So 60% is 20% more than our average demand. So whatever extra water we have, we will store underground in the San Gabriel Basin. Speaking of the San Gabriel Basin, the Key Well, which is in Baldwin Park, this doesn't directly affect Sierra Madre, but it is at an historic low and on a downward trend. We asked the Executive Director of Watermaster what the impact of that will be. There have been a few wells that have had to be lowered. The bowls of the wells have had to be lowered. If it goes down another, I believe he said 15 to 20 feet, there could be some additional wells impacted for some of the cities and private water companies in the San Gabriel Basin. So overall, this is again in the San Gabriel Valley. This is mainly in the main basin, the main San Gabriel Basin. Local groundwater comprises the majority of the water supply for the San Gabriel Valley. With some local surface water, a little bit of recycled water. Water conservation is contributing about 5%, and then treated imported water about 7%. So I talked about storage. Obviously, everyone's familiar with storing water in a reservoir behind a dam. The snow, while it's still frozen, is actually storing water. And then as it melts, hopefully slowly, that's captured in the reservoirs. And then groundwater. Groundwater, it is a very good way to store water long term. It isn't subject to any evaporation. The only challenge with groundwater is getting the water put into storage quickly. And that requires a lot of property. As you all know, with the spreading grounds, that's a lot of property to be able to store water in the aquifers. So the state has took action in 2015. You're well aware of this with mandatory water use reductions. 2016, they have moved to self-certifying, recognizing that different regions of the state may have prepared differently for extended droughts. Overall, within our 4 cities, we did achieve over 25% conservation. But, water supply has improved, but we're still in a drought, contrary to a presidential candidate. And water conservation, again, it is really the cheapest, most efficient source of water. That gallon of water that isn't used costs a lot less than getting an extra gallon out of the state water project. And the costs are increasing. So there are a lot of resources that we partner with on how people can learn how to do more with less water. We do have our rebates. We've expanded our rebate program to include high-efficiency toilets, high-efficiency washing machines, rain barrels, smart irrigation controllers. Those are great because from your internet, your Wi-Fi at your home, it gets updates of the weather forecast, and it will adjust your sprinkler cycle to not water if it's going to rain the next day. And then if it doesn't rain the next day, it will correct for that. But if it does rain, it knows there's no need to turn on the irrigation system. And here's a little bit more on our rebate program, water saving tips. The other is we do have a number of forums that we participate in, and some of them, several of these we organize. The main water forum for the San Gabriel Valley is September 20th, Sheraton Fairplex in Pomona. They will be talking about new water supply projects, future plans, and water conservation tips. Over the last several months on conservation, I've read a lot about it, and I will quote a friend of mine, Jeff Keitlinger. He's the general manager of Metropolitan Water District. And we need to recognize that, it's not about surviving a drought, it's being resilient in a drought. And the water conservation efforts of the last few years, we need to recognize, have to become a permanent way of life for us to enable that we have adequate water supplies. So I think that's a strong message that we just need to realize that we live in a desert. We say it over and over again, and a lot of times I feel like I'm preaching to the choir within the water industry, but that is something that we and our constituents need to recognize. It's going to be a permanent way of life. The landscaping outside looks great. Good job. That's one of the projects we supported, as well as the projects at Miramani Reservoir, Sierra Madre School, and other locations. Just a quick update on the district. I was unseated as president at the beginning of this year. Our newest director, Thomas Wong, is now president of the board. I am vice chairman. We have been going through a process using the same consultant or facilitator you'd used in the past to update our strategic plan. That has been shared with your staff. I'm sure they'd make a copy available to you. We have a new assistant general manager, Ed Hills. Ed has been very active getting out and interacting with our partnerships and our other stakeholders. Just updated our website. We got the same data here on the imported water supplies, and I mentioned the hydroelectric study. On our financial side, while our reserves are strong at about $16 million, over the last several years, we have been going through our reserves at the rate of $1.5 to $2 million a year. And one of the biggest factors of reasons for that is the fixed cost on the state water project. And those 2 years ago were $5 million regardless of how much water we get from the state water project. So at a 5% allocation, we get a very small amount of water, yet we still have to pay the $5 million. That $5 million has grown to $6.8 million currently. The state water contractors are very concerned. This is the Department of Water Resources, operates the state water project, but those rising costs are of great concern. And we need to know, is this going to be a continuing trend? Are they going to flatten out? But it's something that we've weighed in with through the state water contractors and with DWR. Our concerns with that. We have informed all of our cities. We had not raised our water rate for over 20 years, but because of those increasing costs, we have started to increase our water rate, and this is the schedule. Currently, $165 and going up to $200 an acre foot. And this shows the use of reserves on the bottom orange bars over the last several years. We have cut back on some of our so-called discretionary expenditures. The pilot projects we've funded for all 4 cities over the last several years, we won't be able to do. We've curtailed that for now. And again, you can see the actual cost of the state water project water and what we are charging for the sale of that water, and we do need to make adjustments in that regard. That concludes my presentation. I'm sorry it ended on more of a somber note. I'd be happy to address any questions.
Yeah, can you, just on that last slide, can you leave that up? I mean, so that represents what you've been paying versus what you're charging for the water? And so you've been paying down or consuming reserves to close that gap?
Reserves have been closing that gap for the last several years.
Oh. Why did it take you so long to increase? I know it's tough to do, but why didn't you increase the rate sooner?
Well, historically, that corrects itself if we move back to what we used to think of as normal state water project supply. So if we get a lot of state water project supply on a per acre foot basis because of that fixed cost, the cost comes down. And yet we sell more water. Our 4 cities buy more of that water. So our sales go up, our cost per unit cost goes down, and we're able to weather those ups and downs.
Okay.
As you can see here, for the last 5 years, it's all been down.
Yeah, okay.
I saw pictures of Oroville and, what's the one up on the Sacramento, the big one?
Folsom,
No, way up there.
farther north, Shasta.
Shasta, and they were full. But I'm seeing something a lot less than the numbers you're giving us in terms of the state project.
So that's, Shasta is a federal
That's
project.
a federal, right?
Yeah, it's not a state water project.
Oroville State.
Oroville is state water project. Folsom is federal. But if you look at that, it's all the reservoirs combined.
Right, so there's some that are not full then.
Yeah, some are not full, but those big ones filling were a big help.
Any other questions?
So thank you for your presentation, Director Love. And as a side note, Director Love, as I've been talking about my goddaughter, because I only had her for 5 whole days, he saw my goddaughter get her first tooth pulled out, or taken out. And so thank you for being a witness to that.
My pleasure.
But I wanted to ask you, in terms of what we can do as a city council and what we can do as a city, is there any efforts that we could be helpful in as we are addressing this as a city, as a municipal water district? What can we do in terms of helping your efforts and our efforts as a city?
Well, I think we've got a fantastic partnership going on the conservation effort. With the pilot projects, with the incentives, with the advertising, the opportunities to engage with the community. I think that's going very, very well. I think in terms of what the city can help us is, and we've developed a good dialogue with the city manager and public works director of planning ahead. What are we looking at in the future? And so that is, I think, is going very, very well. But if we can continue to understand and work together on developing those perhaps innovative ideas on ensuring a more stable and reliable water supply for Sierra Madre, I think we've identified some excellent opportunities. We need to go through the evaluation of those and see if those are something that we can truly prove out and move forward with. And if not, come up with other innovative ideas on moving forward.
That's in process right now, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Director Love, yes, as always, thank you for coming. And the most, I guess, chilling thing for me is looking at the Baldwin Park Key Well, the level that it's at, and really mirrors our wells here. And my question is, at what point, obviously there's more wells than just this, but at what point do you, as a water district, not have enough water to give to us in time of an emergency? And I think we ask you this every time. So,
Well,
where are we there?
Because of the city council asking me that question on a couple of occasions, I have started discussions with our management and our board about now, when we have a 60% supply, it's more than ample for our anticipated needs for this year and a little bit beyond. We need to start talking about developing a water supply allocation plan. In other words, as you know, we deliver and sell our water on a first come, first served basis. And I know a concern of this council was, what if Alhambra decides to buy up all the water? Do we have a mechanism so that we can make sure we have some equity? And so that water supply allocation plan is something that I would like to implement, so that when we are short of supply in a future year, everyone knows, all right, you can't get all you want, but we're going to allocate it amongst our 4 cities in a fair and equitable manner. One of our cities they have purchased some water companies with groundwater rights. They recently had a permanent transfer of groundwater rights to the other part of the city that's not in our service area, which means their demand on us will go up. Our staff are in dialogue with the management of that particular city to set up a process, and the board will adopt this, is that if we have to go out and get transfers or exchanges with other state water contractors to meet that obligation, that additional cost shouldn't be borne by the other cities, but by the city who is creating that additional demand.
Right.
Our general manager has identified a number of opportunities where we can work with other state water contractors, aside from the city selling their water rights, to acquire additional supplies. It comes at a little higher cost. We just renewed an agreement with Dudley Ridge. It is another state water contractor where we store water for them, and then when they need it, they take our state water project allocation and we use the water they've stored here. But it's not an even exchange. For every 5 acre feet they store, they only get 3 back, so we get 2 extra acre feet. There's no money exchanged, but there's water exchanged, and so that enhances our supplies.
And relatedly, we're still getting, to the extent we get water from you, it's still through the swap with MWD with our main connection. Where are we, and maybe our water subcommittee knows better than I do, but where are we on potentially finding either our own well in the main basin or working with Arcadia to have a direct connection into the main basin?
Well, I know your staff are working with the city of Arcadia. We've had a few discussions on working out the details of that arrangement. Once those details come forth, we have had some communication about how the district can support that.
Great.
Just to follow you up, you made the statement that we have water for the year and maybe into the next year. Can you be more specific about that? Because I'd heard, we'd received some numbers somewhere from staff the last 3 months that there may be 2 or 3 years worth of water that we could count on. Is that not true?
Yeah, so based on the state's new criteria, and what we do is, so based on their criteria, we look back at the last 3 years and assume that's going to be the same case for the next 3 years. And with this year's 60% allocation, then we have enough water to meet all the demands in our service area. I am normally perhaps too optimistic, and I just want to caution, it's not, we don't have we have enough water, but we don't have excess water available over the next 2 to 3 years. And so that statement about conservation as a permanent way of life, I want to reinforce, we still have to watch and preserve what we have. Since we overlie groundwater basins, the Raymond Basin here in Sierra Madre and the main San Gabriel Basin, water we don't use stays in the ground and it doesn't go anywhere. And so it's there for future use. So a drop saved is a drop of additional supply.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Director Love, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Now we have Public Works Director Inman with a presentation about our water situation.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is our monthly update on Sierra Madre's water conservation program. Our monthly conservation for May was up at 34.2%, so in that month we actually exceeded the state's goal for the city, so we can be congratulated on that. June 2016, however, that number started to fall off, and in reviewing the billing printouts that we received from accounting, 36% of our customers exceeded their conservation targets. In other words, they used more than their allocation. That total excess amounted to 9.5 million gallons of water used in excess of the conservation targets. And for June, we were down to roughly 24% conservation. That brought our cumulative conservation as beginning in June 2015 to 21.4%. For this month, it's not even looking as good as June. We're at slightly less than 15% through the 24th of July. In terms of the water level status, of course, the historic low was 335 feet above mean sea level. The high point was back in March of this year, where we had gained about 50 feet. That water level is starting to go back down, and as of the 20th of this month, it was down at about 368. Now that is before the water that we're starting to put back in the ground through through our water connection started again. We fired that up again on July 1st, and we're flowing water at 2,500 gallons per minute continuously 24/7. And it takes about 2.5 months for that water to get down to where it actually shows up in our water levels. So that should help us to begin recharging the groundwater basin with that source. In terms of our ongoing efforts to restore the water level in the Raymond Basin, we are continuing to work with the Water Master's office, and we were finally able to schedule a meeting for August 11th with the SMART group to continue our discussions with the city of Arcadia. We've been pressing to make sure that that effort continued, and we've been successful in getting another meeting scheduled. The things that we're discussing with Arcadia, as Director Love mentioned, are a joint well construction, possibly sharing the cost of spreading imported water, and also establishment of an annual safe yield in the East Raymond Basin, much like is done in the main San Gabriel Basin in an effort to make sure we never take more water out of the basin than is available. And in regards to our leaking water system, in June 2016, we repaired a total of 56 system leaks. As of the 18th of this month, we had repaired 30. So we still have a very leaky water system, and you'll see an item on the consent calendar that reflects that condition. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Director Inman, the leak numbers are horrible because we fixed the Skyland.
Yes.
It was a big contributor before, but we're back up to the same rate of leakage, even though that section has been removed from the problems.
Correct. The problem, as noticed in your agenda tonight, the problem has just moved elsewhere. It's moved to North Mitchell-Linda. And I think we're going to continue to see this sort of thing happening as time goes on. Because as you know, we've got a lot of pipe in the ground that needs to be replaced.
So, yeah, the scary part is, I mean, there's not enough data to be conclusive about it, but it could be that, even our efforts to stay on top of it, we're still falling further behind. I mean, those are some bad numbers. That's 2 leaks a day, basically.
Correct. Yeah. Some days as many as 5.
And we still don't have a way to know accurately, to know how much of this is our customers and how much of it's through these leaks.
No, we don't have a way of.
It sounds
knowing.
like substantial amount is being lost through these leaks.
Correct.
But the good news is it's going back into the aquifer.
Well, that is good news.
Yeah. It is, however, expensive to keep pumping
Yeah.
that in a circle.
Yeah. Any other questions? Councilmember Del Mar?
Yes, the big question is what's been going on with Montecito? We've had quite a few leaks there the past week.
East Montecito, yes, that is another one of our frequent flyers, as we might call them, and we're looking at another approach to when we go back in to repair leaks, to do it more than 12 inches at a time with repair clamps. We're considering a way in which we can go in and replace more significant lengths of pipe with each repair. But there's some details we need to work out, but that's what we're looking at doing at this point. We'll bring you more information on that later.
The one this past weekend, it was kind of gushing there for a little while.
You're,
This way they got it fixed. So, yes, can keep an eye on it. Poor Montecito. You can just see all the patches all up and down the road.
yes, you're absolutely right. I have some spectacular photos that were taken out there.
It's just as bad as the one we're going to talk about tonight on Mitchell-Linda. I drove by that one today, and every 5 feet in the road, there's a patch.
Just as a matter of point of reference, the new water penalties kick in July 1st, right?
Correct.
And water rates went up too.
Correct. July 1st.
So what was the number of the 36%?
36%.
So that's
Customers.
36% of our customers are going to be paying fees, penalties.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Moving on to items for discussion. I understand there was a discrepancy at the city website that the consideration of Library Board of Trustees appointments was listed as 2, but we have it listed as 3, and I'm going to go ahead and go with the published agenda that's here tonight. So we will take into consideration the appointment of the Planning Commission first. I'm sorry? Oh, what am I doing? It's Hawaii night, and it went to my head, I guess. Sorry about that. Well, then we do move on to the consent calendar, Madam
Yes, sir.
City
Sure.
Manager.
Our first
Our
action
apologies.
items of the evening. There are 5 consent calendar items. The first one is adoption of Resolution 1649, approving our demands, and the council's approving city warrants in the total amount of $413,653,000, library warrants in the amount of $8,481, and payroll transfer in the total amount of $323,094. And it is for 2 fiscal years. We still are getting some bills in that go back to prior to June 30th of 2016. Plus, there's also, of course, bills we're paying for the month of July. Item number 2, or B, is adoption of Resolution 16-50, amending Resolution 14-48, eliminating the percentage paid by the employer of the employee's contribution to the California Employees Retirement System for part-time unrepresented employees. I want to emphasize this is really a sort of housekeeping cleanup matter. This is not a change. The city has not paid the employee share of part-time employees previously, and we're just correcting the city's records on this. So it really doesn't change anything that we're currently doing. But PERS has asked us to document it better. At 1C is a recommendation to approve a construction contract with Stephen Dorick Equipment Rentals in an amount not to exceed $246,615 for the replacement of the failed existing water main in the 400 and 450 blocks of North Michelinda Avenue. The recommendation is that the council approve the contract with Rain for Rent for the rental of a temporary main in an amount not to exceed $21,410, and the construction contract with Dorick Rentals for an amount not to exceed $246,615 for the main in the 400 and 450 blocks of Michelinda Avenue. At 1D is authorization to go out to bid for replacement of the Sierra Madre Department Police Council. The council is just being asked to authorize staff to go out to bid for the replacement equipment. When those bids come back, we'll come back with how much they'll cost and how we will fund that purchase should the bid be awarded. So you're not asking to allocate money tonight, just to authorize us to go out to bid. 1E is the presentation of the fiscal year 16-17 annual budget document. The recommendation is to just receive and file this document. As you're aware, you approved our budget at the last meeting in June. This is just the actual budget document itself to let the public know it's completed, and it'll be uploaded to our website and available for people to review. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
I just have a quick question, Madam City Manager. Thank you for the timeliness, first of all, to Director Marcy. Why can I not think of Marcy's last name at
Medina.
this point? Medina, thank you. And to the staff for getting the completed budget together on time, and again, the timeliness in getting to us, so thanks. But in respect to letter D, when would we expect the bids to come back for City Council to consider?
Your first meeting in September.
Great, thank you.
Other questions?
Are we just going through each of them, or do you?
Oh, sorry, I skipped around.
Well, no, it's fine. I have a question about the budget, but just.
That's fine.
Yeah, I have it's a minor thing, and I know we talked about this last time, and we explained it in the budget message. First of all, I think the budget's great. I thought you guys did an excellent job. It's really well put together, and the pictures and the visuals are really good too. The only thing that I guess I had a question of, and we explained it again in the budget message, is if you look at our page 3 of the budget summary, the 2014-2015 actuals versus the 2016-2017 adopted, it looks like we're increasing total expenditures by $2.5 million or so, right? And we explain why that is. We definitely leave ourselves open for someone looking and not reading your budget message, which kind of explains it, and just being like, there they go. They're increasing the general fund expenditures by $2.5 million. Is there any benefit of actually, do we have to have the 2014, 2015 actuals in their old form, or is there any way to easily kind of do an apples to apples?
There's no way to easily do an apples to apples because of the internal service fund changes. It would virtually impossible. But we can do is, I believe in the staff report that went to you, we had sort of that, call it the translation page. We
Right.
included another column to show you what the transfers in and how they increase the costs. We could include that chart in this document, so it's right there up front.
Right.
So you can see exactly where the other funds were collapsed into the general fund and what the increases are due to. I
Yeah.
think that was a pretty helpful chart.
I thought it was helpful, because I think you can look at this and be, again, the message is really good, the pros, but then you look at
No, you're right, bottom line total looks,
then you look at the total and it's, whoa, what happened? So I don't know if you guys thought that, but
it's easy to change, to add that chart in, that wouldn't be difficult.
It's a pretty substantial change in the way we're doing things, and there's going to be a learning curve with everyone involved, us and the public. So anything you can do to kind of, paint by the numbers,
We can make that change. That's a very easy change. We can make that change. Next year, we'll have apples and apples next year.
Exactly.
But, we'll put that sort of translation page in the document. It'll also highlight the change again. So if they don't read the budget message, they'll see something different on the chart and
Right.
look a little further and be able to figure it out.
Right. That's all I had.
Okay.
Yes, on the water main issue, this is, I'm looking on page 4 of 5. There's a paragraph that starts with California Public Contracts Code, says, before a governing body takes action pursuant to paragraph 1, it shall make a finding. Do we need to make that finding, or is that embedded in this somehow?
It's embedded in the staff report and in your action.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, let's open the consent calendar up to public comment.
Hi, I'm Emmett McGuire, 180 San Gabriel Court. I have a question, not a comment. The concept of a temporary water main kind of jams my machinery. I don't understand it at all. They're going to put in a temporary and cover it up, and then later they're going to come back and put in a permanent? Why don't they just put in a permanent? I don't understand. So it's like, a temporary bypass surgery? But they're going to use a straw from McDonald's instead of, because they haven't got a vein?
We can respond at the end.
When public comment is over, we'll have Director Inman come up and take a
Thank
shot at that.
Ina Jaffe, 516 North Michelinda. On the water main replacement, that picture is my driveway on the staff report, which I have not been able to get in and out of for approximately a month. So I really urge you to vote the money for the repairs, because the street is a disaster zone. Every time I walk my dog, there's new leaks springing up. I'm calling the police department, going, yeah, we heard, we know. So it really is an urgent situation. I do have a question, though, and I would like to find out just what the plan is in terms of the temporary water main, and also how long the project will take, so I know how long I have to park on the other side of the street or around the corner. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, let's bring it back to the council.
Would you like
We get a-
Director Inman?
Right. Get a quick answer to that question from Mr.
Describe
McGuire.
the temporary water main, how that works, and how long the project's going to take.
Okay, I'll try to address the second question first. I don't have that answer specifically because we haven't set up a schedule yet with the contractor. but I would expect that the construction process would take a couple of weeks. It's a fairly straightforward project, and we'll put the temporary line in first, which should take roughly a week, and then once that's in place, the reason we're doing that is to be able to take that old water main out of service and immediately stop the leakage. Once the temporary line's in place and the customers along North Michelinda all have water service off the temporary, then we can go back in and recompact the soils and fix the subgrade of the street that's been eroded, and then the contractor can come in and replace the water main. But we've got to provide him a stable base on which to work. As noted in the staff report, some of the backfill that we've put in these trenches has not been compacted because we're concerned that compacting that soil is going to cause even more leaks. So that'll be the process. In terms of being able to drive into driveways and get around and park, we've used this exact same process and the same contractor on Skyland Drive, and it worked out very well. I don't recall hearing any complaints from the neighbors. They were frankly just glad to get our crews to stop coming up there on a daily basis. The driveways will each be ramped over the temporary line so that the customers can still drive in and out of their driveways.
You're not digging a trench?
We're not digging a trench. This actually will lie, the pipe typically will lie right in the gutter. So we're not burying anything. It's going to be right there on the surface, and customers will be able to park in the street next to it as well. So
Is it like a big fire hose essentially? Or is it like a hard pipe?
it's a hard pipe. Yeah, it's the hard, like ABS type of pipe, yeah. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions if they have any, so. Okay?
Thank you, Director Inman. I'll take a motion on the consent calendar.
I'll move to accept the consent calendar as presented.
I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Now we'll move to items for discussion. As I mentioned, we will stick with the order that is printed on the agenda tonight. Consideration of appointment to the Planning Commission first.
Regarding appointment to the Planning Commission, there is one vacancy that was created when a current planning commissioner completed their 4-year term and decided not to serve the second term. So that's what resulted in this vacancy. There's one vacancy. The vacancy was advertised for probably the last 4 months or so through the various means the city uses to get the word out. The council's process is we advertise once 3 applications are received for a single vacancy. We can schedule it for the council. There's a public portion of the application that goes up on the city's website. And there's, of course, the private portion that has personal information, such as phone numbers, because the council can, if they desire, interview applicants before tonight's meeting by telephone. All of the applicants were invited to attend the meeting this evening. The applications received in alphabetical order for the single vacancy, Mr. Barry Gold, Mr. William Pevsner, Mr. Art Sirapat, and Mr. John Vandeveld. I would like to report that Mr. Vandeveld did notify staff that he was unable to attend the meeting this evening. That concludes staff's presentation. The council can interview the applicants this evening, ask them to make a presentation. It's not required. And you also are not required to make any appointment this evening should you not want any of these applicants. You would direct staff to re-advertise and obtain additional applications. That concludes my presentation. I'd be glad to answer your questions, and I turn it over to the council.
I think traditionally we give the applicants an opportunity to speak. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to do that, and we'll just start in alphabetical order. Mr. Gold going first, if he's interested.
Good evening, Mayor Goss and council members. A little over 4.5 years ago, when my family and I moved to Sierra Madre, we knew how lucky we were to be able to find a home here in this uniquely special town, and we knew that Sierra Madre's uniqueness should not be taken for granted. Our city encourages all residents to volunteer in whatever way they can to help to continue to make Sierra Madre one of the most desirable places to live throughout Southern California. The more people who are given the opportunity to serve on our various boards, committees, and commissions, the better it is for all of us. I believe that I can contribute to this process of protecting Sierra Madre's desirability as a member of the Planning Commission. Except for maybe 2 or 3 occasions during the past 2.5 years, I have attended every single Planning Commission meeting. On occasions, I've been the only member of the public in attendance. I have watched as the planning commissioners apply the goals of the general plan to their decision-making process, the goals that you all unanimously approved in the general plan update last year. I have seen how the commissioners have made at your request recommendations to change the municipal code, recommendations that are designed to support the goals of the general plan, recommendations which you have all unanimously approved. I am open-minded. I do my homework. I know I would be a positive addition to the Planning Commission, and I would be honored to serve. And I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Gold. Do we want to do questioning or just the presentation?
I don't have
I'm fine with just
Okay. Mr. Pesner, I don't see him here. Nope. Mr. Sripipat?
Good evening, Mayor Goss, council members. My name is Art Sripipat, and I'm applying for a position on the Planning Commission. By way of background, I'm an attorney. I was formerly a litigator, and now my practice focuses more on technology licensing. I'm a fairly recent resident to Sierra Madre, but I grew up in nearby Arcadia, so I'm very familiar with our city, and also why it is that people choose to make their homes here, namely that the historic small-town environment that we have. It's also the same reason why I chose to purchase a home in Sierra Madre and where I intend to stay for the long term as well. In the past 5 years, I've lived in both Switzerland and in San Francisco, but I chose to come back to Sierra Madre because I feel most at home in this area. And as regards to the Planning Commission itself, I would posit that some of the most important work they do is to balance the public good versus private interest. And although I don't have any design experience or previous service on the Planning Commission, what I can offer is my unique background and experience. First, my professional experience as an attorney and a negotiator who, during the course of my career, I had to listen to parties that had very different opinions and very different positions. And what I was able to do was to listen intently and bridge the gap between parties and offer creative, practical solutions. In addition, from my time living abroad, I also believe that I would bring a perspective of someone who's lived in other world-class cities and has been able to see firsthand what other cities, how they manage some of the same issues that Sierra Madre has, such as preservation and maintenance of historic areas and buildings, and how that is done through restoration, redevelopment, and so forth. So in short, thank you for your time and consideration, and I'd be happy to take any questions that would help the council further evaluate my application.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, lost track here.
John Vandevelde.
And Mr. Vandevelde, but I don't believe he's here as well either, right? Okay. Do we do public comment, or do we have a deliberation first? I think we will open this up to public comment at this time.
Robert Lee Klein. Usually I wouldn't get up to comment, and I know a few of the applicants and I like the few that I know very much. But I'm going to put a word in for Mr. Vanderbilt, who's not here this evening, only because I know that we will be coming off the moratorium, and we really are going to be addressing Carter, and the old Heflin property. And Mr. Vanderbilt has been on the Planning Commission over a number of years, and along with John Hutt and Gina and the rest of them, really do know the ins and outs of the ordinances and the zoning. I know Vincent is very new. He's getting up to speed, but I really do think we really need to have a real strong planning commission back in place for the next couple of years that we have coming up here. Right now it's been kind of smooth and easy going, but it's not always such the case, especially when we really do start kicking in the building practices that we're going to be seeing coming up soon. Thanks.
Other comments? Okay, let's bring this back. I think traditionally when we've had one position open, we just go around the room and look for nominations and see if we have consensus. So who'd like to go first?
I can go first. I'd like to thank all the applicants, especially the two that came and spoke, and for their interest in the commissions. In this commission in particular, sometimes it takes a few tries to get on a commission, and it's just the nature of it. But everyone here is extremely qualified. I think everyone brings different talents and perspectives to the commission. My vote is going to be for Mr. Pevsner, mainly because of his experience on the Planning Commission. He served for 2 terms, and I do think that we do need someone on there that, with everything we have on the docket coming up, that has experience, and the learning curve would be relatively short for him or Mr. Vandervelde. I think, again, they've done it for 8 years, so I think that they are both uniquely qualified. So my vote would be for Mr. Pevsner.
Okay, I'll just keep it quick. My first choice would be John Vandevelde, and Esner also. I mean, I've sat in a lot of planning commission meetings with both of those, and my iPad is just listening to what I'm saying here, so I had to shut it off. I don't know why I
When that
decided to
happens.
do that, but anyway, I don't want to miss the opportunity to add John Vandevelde's skills because he's an architect. He does do work in town, and so he's very sensitive, and you might consider that could be a drawback, but I see it as a real positive, that he knows the ins and outs of the impact on builders and residents of the decisions that are made by the Planning Commission. And I would think that over the years, sometimes things are decided without fully understanding the implications of that. So both those guys are great. I'm very impressed with both of them, but my first choice would be John Vandevelde.
Councilmember Del Mar, are you there?
I am here. Hi. So I'm going to go on a totally different route and say that perhaps we need to get some new people on the Planning Commission. And I would certainly put my vote for Barry Gold. I know that he's attended many of these meetings. He knows how the Planning Commission works, and I know his dedication, and he would certainly add value to our current Planning Commission. But I also want to thank all 4 men for applying. Kind of disappointed we don't have any women in the application pool, but I'm certainly thankful for everybody for applying. But I would encourage us to vote for Barry Gold. Thank you.
Similarly, I definitely can attest to the fact that Planning Commission is probably one of the most demanding, not just in terms of time, but in terms of knowledge and experience for all of the commissions. And with that being said, and knowing where we are in the direction that we're going for our city and the concerns that we have in terms of development and in adhering to our general plan, I put my vote behind Mr. William Pevsner today, but I don't want to discourage all of the other applicants because we still have 2 openings and 2 other commissions, and it really takes a lot, I know, for you to put your names forward in order to volunteer and put your time into the city. So I don't want you to be discouraged by that, but also recognizing the fact that for the demands I think we'll be putting on the Planning Commission in the upcoming years, I do want to recognize the fact of putting people in place that really understand the code as is, and again, the direction that we're going in.
Okay, so 4 down, 1 to go. First, I want to thank everyone, all 4 of you, for applying. Each and every one of you has a very impressive record and could all do this job, so let's get that out of the way. I think that Mr. Pevsner and Mr. Vandeveld are probably the most qualified given their background on the Planning Commission. I'm going to go with I think it's a pretty close call, but I'm going to go with William Pevsner. Very frankly, I think he has had a very distinguished record on the Planning Commission, and I think his background is not in architecture. His background, I think we need people who come to the commission who are not necessarily architects, but who can bring kind of the common approach to that the typical person in the community might want to see on the Planning Commission. So I think that adds up 3 votes for Pevsner, 1 for Gold, 1 for Vandeveld. So I think we have need to do a formal vote? Should we have someone make a motion for Mr. Pevsner?
I'll move for Mr. Pevsner.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Council unanimously appoints Mr. William Pevsner to the Planning Commission. Okay, now we move on to the Library Board of Trustees.
I won't give the background on the appointment process because I just did that 10 minutes ago. When it comes to the Library Board of Trustee, there's 1 vacancy on the board. You received 3 applications. The applicants are Pat Alcorn, Daniel Ekstrom, and Patricia Hall. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, and what is the alphabetical order on that?
Alcorn, Ekstrom, Hall.
Okay, so I'd like to give them an opportunity to speak. Ms. Pat Alcorn first, by alphabetical order.
Good evening. Wasn't that a wonderful presentation of the trustees with all of the activities that they have? I just am so delighted with the program that they have now. One of the charges of the library, the Board of Trustees, is not only to create policy and funding, but to know the programs and to know the needs of the library as it relates to the community. And also for the trustee to be involved in establishing those programs. During the meetings of the Senior Plan Update Commission, we talked about the community as a whole, and maybe the seniors and the library could collaborate on some of their many programs. Because I just finished my terms on the Community Services Commission, and I'm only 1 year away from being president of the Friends of the Library, I think I can be an asset to the Board of Trustees because I do understand the needs of the community, both the library and the community as a whole. I think I can be an asset in able to transform those ideas into the policy. Thank you.
Is Mr. Ekstrom here today? And Mrs. Hall, Patricia Hall. Looks like, nope. Okay, I'll go ahead and open this up to public comment. Hearing none. We'll bring it back, and I think we, all the same procedure on this one. Look for nominations until we find consensus. Who wants to go first?
Can I go first?
You certainly may.
course, I would like to put up Pat Alcorn. We all know she's a hard worker. She knows the library. She knows community services. And I think she would just be an asset to the Library Board of Trustees. And I admire her actually wanting to do this with all the other commitments she has and just coming off as a friend of the library and having worked with the community services. So bravo to you, Pat, for applying for this. And I would certainly vote for Pat.
Okay, one vote for Alcorn. Who wants to go next? John?
I'm going to recommend Patricia Hall. And again, Pat Alcorn, very, very qualified. Patricia Hall's qualifications are equal or better, and there were just a couple of things that really impressed me is that she was the chair of the successful $85,000 campaign for the children's room of the library, and she's a retired professional fundraiser. And given that money is always an issue, and knowing that we have some potential threats coming up, and we're basically at a bare bones budget right now, I just think that fundraising is just such a, that kind of a skill and ability is just an incredibly valuable asset, aside from the fact that she really knows the library as well. So that's my reasoning.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with the same direction as Councilmember Capocha. I think between Pat Alcorn and Pat Hall, you can't go wrong. And so this was a tough decision. I think that Pat Alcorn will end up somewhere on a board or a commission, and we're going to still have her on the Friends. So I feel like we're not losing her. And I remember when we opened the children's room, just how much Pat Hall was doing at that time, and knowing her through the years, I think she'd be a good member of the trustees. So I'll go with her.
Okay, two for Hall, one for Alcorn. Mayor Pro Tem.
So similar to my last comments, I want to encourage Daniel Ekstrom to apply for the two other vacancies that we have. And given that, obviously, I'm between Pat Alcorn and Patricia Hall. And I think they both bring value to this work. They obviously both know library very well, both know the community very well. And I can definitely recognize the importance of the campaign and the fundraising. But I think either way, we have both friends of the library and both supporters of the library. And given that, I want to put my vote behind Pat Alcorn. I know that her and both Dee are just very dependable. They're there at every event, every community activity where we know that we can look up and see the Alcorn. So I want to put my vote behind Pat.
Thanks a lot, guys.
I mean, you get paid the big bucks for it.
I thought it would be decided, and I could just say, we can all go home, there have been several of these since I've been on the council that are tough. This ranks as one of the toughest. I do see the two best candidates as the Pats. And I don't know Pat Hall very well. I certainly know of her. I certainly was familiar with some of the things before I read this. I don't know Pat Alcorn that well, but in the last few years, I've gotten to appreciate a lot of the things she's done here in town, and I think she's fabulous too. It's very tough. I think I'm going to lean to Pat Hall on the issue of the tenure with the library trustees, the work in the children's room. That's near and dear to my heart. It's a place that I spent a lot of years when my son was small. So I'm going to lean with Pat Hall, and all I can say is this is a coin flip, basically, for me. And I think we win either way. So I think that puts us 3-2 Pat Hall. So if we can take a motion.
I'll make the motion that Pat Hall is our new representative on the Board of Trustees.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Was that a yay or nay?
It was a yay.
Was it yay? Okay, it's unanimous. Pat Hall is our new trustee. Thank you, everyone, for participating in those two decisions. And that brings us to our final item tonight on the agenda, improving community relations. communications.
Mayor, members of the City Council, this was carried over from your last meeting when it got too late, and it's on your agenda again this evening. It's the same staff report that was in your agenda packet at the last meeting. To summarize, at the last strategic plan retreat, the council had requested that staff bring forward a staff report with suggestions for improving communications with the community. As background, there's a number of ways, at least a dozen, that we currently communicate regularly with the community. It includes everything from press releases to Nixle alerts to banners to our website to Facebook. There's other mechanisms we use, other media we use, mostly depending on the cost. For example, we can do direct mailers. Those are more expensive because you're paying for postage. We do targeted social media. We have the electronic message boards, which are basically the traffic control. They're primarily for traffic control, but we do use them for getting important messages out to the community. And those are neat because they can move around. And we've used them for a variety of things. There's a number of things that are available that we do not currently use. There have been requests for an additional banner pole, similar to the one that's over Sierra Madre Boulevard and Baldwin, to put a similar type of large banner pole sign over the street at our western end of town. There's also these reverse 911 systems, which we don't currently have. A permanent electronic message board. Those range from, you see them sometimes in commercial establishments. It's one line of text that scrolls, to as ornate as some of the huge things you see off the side of freeways that are changing. We're not recommending that, but that's just a range of gamut that the electronic message board can range. The staff report ends up recommending, based upon our current financial circumstances, that we go out to bid to see what it would cost to put another banner pole at the intersection of West Sierra Madre Boulevard and Lima Street. We do have coming on shortly the citizen request dashboard, the city mobile phone application. Those two items are things that are currently in the works. It just takes a period. It's IT involved, and we'll get those moving as soon as we can. The electronic message board, at this time, we're not currently recommending it. One of the obstacles to that is our municipal code currently prohibits these types of signs in town. So we could do a municipal code. It's always possible to do a municipal code text amendment to allow them. And there's a picture of a single line one in the staff report, and one that's more like a monument sign with 3 lines of text that changes. There's also the emergency, the reverse 911. There's a possibility here for an additional $1,250, which we thought was reasonable, to expand our Nixle 360. We currently pay for a portion of this Nixle software through the police department for $1,250 more. We could use this as a reverse 911. It would use, residents would not have to opt into the system. I should mention e-blasts, commercial for e-blast. You need to go to the city's website, sign up to receive those emails that we push out to you. This Nixle, these reverse 911, you don't have to opt into them. I don't know the details of how they work, but basically, if you have a phone in Sierra Madre that the system can access, it knows geographically you've got a Sierra Madre-based phone number, it just automatically will call you with messages. The last option, which was one, when this was discussed at the strategic plan retreat, there was talk about hiring a full-time person to work on community communications. Right now, we sort of have a diversification. There's actually staff in almost all of our departments who spend some of their time doing press releases or community communications in one shape or another. There was some talk about increasing possibly creating a full-time position. The cost for that Depending on what the council would decide to do, you combine, there's a part-time position, you turn that into a full-time position. The increase could be anywhere from $75,000 a year to $95,000 a year for salary and benefits to create this position. There's a lot of benefits that a dedicated position would give the city. It would greatly enhance the amount of information that we provide the community. It was just felt that at this point in time, that's something we might want to wait for a later date to implement. So in the end, the staff's recommendation is to authorize the updating the system to Nixle 360, which is $1,250, and also to allow us to prepare a request for proposals for the additional banner poles at Sierra Madre and Lima Street. I would mention, we have actually done surveys to find out how residents get information. And the top two, the number one method is word of mouth. The second method that comes up is the banners, which is why that's the second recommendation, to see what it would cost. Last time we went out to bid was many years ago, was $25,000. We don't know what that bid would come in at today. They actually need to be, see the Mayor Pro Tem, they actually need to be engineered because they actually take a lot of weight and wind load. And the last thing you want is one of these big poles to fall over on something or someone. So there's actually quite a bit of engineering involved and structure to make it sturdy.
It's pretty easy.
It's easy engineering, it's just, it's an expensive.
Councilmember Capocha can do that.
It's prevailing, as Councilmember Capocha, it's everything from having to pay prevailing wage, to having contractors that have the right insurance, it's all that stuff that makes things a little more expensive for cities. So that's our recommendation. I would like to mention that Councilmember Del Mar was on this subcommittee at the strategic plan retreat, and I would like to see whether or not she has anything she'd like to add.
Councilmember
No,
Demmer?
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Small question, detailed question, you probably don't have an answer. How many likes does our Facebook page have?
Oh my gosh, you're right, I don't have an answer. I know, last time I looked at this, it was about 1,200 more or less, but I don't know if we've gotten above that.
Could we advertise on Facebook to try to expand the likes on that page?
Yes, we can.
Wouldn't that be a pretty cheap way to go?
Yes, that's another alternative. That would not be that expensive. You boost our posts, so to speak.
Any other questions?
Just one question. When we were talking about the Kirsten Court, did we talk about the possibly looking into having a message board there?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I just wasn't sure, because I was thinking about it, whether I actually brought it up or not. so.
It was mentioned at possibly seeing whether or not there was room to put one in of some sort.
Okay.
Madam City Manager, would the reverse 911 go to cell phones or just landlines?
I will have to ask Public Safety Director Giannone, who's the expert on Nixle, to answer that one.
If your cell phone bill goes to Sierra Madre, it will pick up off of that, as well as you can sign into it from, any cell phone. So it is picked up by, the region that you're in.
Where your bill, so basically where your bill is.
Basically where your bill is, they
mailed
grab
to
the data from there
Okay.
and push it up that way.
So if you're cheating on your utility tax,
You won't get a phone call.
That is
That's right.
that's the price you pay.
There's 2,700 likes on Facebook. as
Really?
of tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
2,700.
That's pretty good,
Everyone like us, please.
yeah. Other questions for staff? Okay, let's open this up to public comment.
I cannot believe how much a banner costs. That's crazy. Come on, John. It's an in-kind.
Hi, Barbara Lee Klein. In the 20-some-odd years that I've attended city council meetings, along with the planning commission meetings, I believe this is the fourth time that this has come up before the city council. So, I have the tapes if anyone wants to watch all the rest of the council meetings, that each time the same discussion is had, and same decisions, same outcomes. To put it in the words of one of the council members, we're at the bare bones budget of the city right now. So no, I don't think we need to put in any more advertisement boards in the driving through Sierra Madre. I think the cost of the environmental impact report would be enough just to say dissuade us, along with the traffic studies, which will say, is that difficult for drivers to concentrate on the road while they're looking up to see what's being advertised. So, nah, I don't think it's needed at this time. And over the years, it's the same thing. The expense is just too much, so. Tonight, we have about 8 people new here in City Council. 4 of them are for the positions that have been applied. So yeah, most people, unless they're watching cable channel 3 TV, you know, are not paying attention to what goes on in town. They look to you guys to run the town. So that new little board that the police department can move around, that's helpful. You know, that's been helpful. I think back when we had the Sierra Madre fires, if I recall right, FEMA said that the reverse 911 system was something that the city just needed to apply to, and that we would have it. I know I have it on my phone, so I'm not sure what the holdup here is. And I've got a long memory for things, as you guys well know. I can pull that tape out also. So no, I don't think this is an expense that the city needs to be taking on right now at this time, but I think some more likes on Facebook, and I did check it out finally the first time, and I tried to get the agenda on my phone. And it's a nice system that someone took the time to go ahead and install, so. Oh, we could put the money with the phone system here in the council, or City Hall, because when you call, you get it puts you through the different phone systems of who do you want to contact and leave a message, not quite at 3 minutes, you forgot to time me. So if anything, we can improve the communications through City Hall and even update the police department when there are different things happening in town. I know the last couple of weeks, my mom experienced a blackout for 9 hours, and she just was released from the hospital. She didn't have to use a suction any longer, but no one in the city had an answer as to why that part of town was blacked out. So just those kind of little things should be really checked into before we start putting money into other systems. Let's get our own systems up and working.
Any other comments? Okay, well, let's take this under consideration.
I can go. I think the future really is with the app. So I'm glad to see that we're developing the app, because I think that'll be very helpful considering how much all of us live on our phones. And I think the reverse 911 is a real no-brainer, especially it's $1,250, and I think it's really useful. I think Barbara Lee's right. I remember I don't know if it was Mr. Keith or whoever gave that presentation about the reverse 911. It seems like it's I'm not sure if it's a FEMA requirement, but I think it's a really good thing to have. So I'm in favor of just developing the app as we are currently doing allocating the $1,250 for the reverse 911. If we had all the money in the world, I would allocate $20,000 or $25,000 for more banner poles. I just don't. I personally don't think I get my information from the polls, from the banners, and it's hard to say. It's like marketing. Does it work or doesn't it? I don't know. But I just, I think the one on Baldwin, Sierra Madre Boulevard is enough for me, and I don't need to see this again as a council member, but I just, that's a lot of money. It's not a ton of money, but it is $25,000, and, we put up signs on the hedges right outside City Hall when we have stuff like the concert in the park. So I think $1,250 for the reverse 911 plus the app, I think is good for me. But I'm, interested to see what all you think.
I'll-
Go ahead.
I apologize, because I, for some reason, I don't have that report here, and I just kind of remember reading it. I am just blown away about the $25,000 for a banner. So as much as I saw that here, I don't think I really processed that. I just figured that was the lowest hanging fruit. We throw up a piece of paper and show that. Because for me, in terms of communication, even though I'm on the Twitter feed, I'm on Facebook for Sierra Madre, really get a lot of my information, aside from our reports, through that banner. With that being said, $25,000 is just not feasible for us at this point. So I don't even think we should even put the time into putting an RFP out unless Councilmember Capocha would like to do some in-kind for us as an engineer, but he was shaking his head no earlier. The $12.50 for the reverse 911, I think is doable. I will say, just coming off of the work I was doing with 211 California as the executive director for the association, I have to say there's just, as much as there was this big surge behind apps, people aren't going with apps anymore. They really are going to the website and finding things there. And again, there are very few apps that I have on my phone now where I'm going to go directly to it. I don't know if that's the best use of it. I'm not going to be anti the app, but I just don't think that's where we need to put our money. I hate to say it, direct mailing for me, and more on the social media. But the reverse 911, I think, is a critical piece because that's emergency situations.
Councilmember Del Mar.
Well, of course, the reverse fee, that to me is a no-brainer as well, and money well spent. I also would like to see money in direct mailing. I agree with Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Arizmendi. I really do like the banners, but not for $25,000. We can put that on the back burner for now. And, you know, I have so many apps on my phone. It's okay if everybody else is in favor of the app, but I do see the direct mailing. I think more people respond to that and our Facebook and our email messaging.
Hey, the other problem with the poles is that it takes labor to hang the banners once you have the poles. And I know we recover a lot of that, but it's still it's just an additional cost. So I'm really not in favor of that. I do think the electronic message boards are a good idea because I see other cities have them. I drive along Foothill sometimes past Glendora and Azusa, and they have them. And, you know, every time I pass by, I look to see what's going on there. And I think that would be a good thing. But I was thinking it'd be great to have one in front of City Hall or in front of the fire department building. But as long as we're looking at redoing Kirsten Court, I do want to support that, maybe just look into that and see the feasibility of that, because, I mean, that's a quick thing. You can program it quickly, and the information is just anything you want is just instantaneous rather than having to run it up the banner and leave it there for a week. So I don't know what you guys think about that. I mean, it's up to $20,000, and, you know, in the case of Kirsten Court, when you're redoing it anyway, perhaps the cost would be down, but is that something you guys would consider, or,
Sure.
you know, once we know the cost?
Yeah. I mean, it feels, you know, something about it feels like 1990s to me, but you know what I mean? But I still think it might be effective. It seems so outdated in some
No,
ways.
with the plasma display, not the.
Right,
you
not
know,
the one
the
that
scrolling.
exactly the scroll. No, I think you're right. Yeah,
But,
Yeah.
but then again, the problem with it is that just as we're talking, the technology does get outdated, and within 5-10 years, maybe you're having to spend money again on it.
right. But I think it could be effective.
Yeah, but so just as long as we look into it, I'm just not sold on it either, but I'm more in favor of that than additional banner poles.
I'll just throw it out there. I'm not a fan either. It's funny that you referred to Councilmember Hurubita that feels very outdated, but I don't know. I think when we were talking about it last council meeting about the feel and look of Kirsten Court,
Yeah,
the
maybe it
thought of
doesn't.
an electric, just doesn't fit, but I'm not a fan.
I think that, I'm just thinking about, you know, the charge we gave that group to go back and come up with something that works. We'd have to throw that in the mix for them to consider, and I don't know if that would throw them off track or not. I mean, I'd like to know what the cost, or if it doesn't take much staff time, I think it would be nice to know what it would cost. But if we have to go to an RFP or something like that, then I wouldn't support
Well, I
that.
mean, seriously, if it's not something that we have consensus on, maybe tell the folks not to even consider it. I mean, you've got a good point, that it might just not fit, and, we have the technology problem, so if you don't like it, let's just tell staff to
Yeah,
not even consider it.
I thought we were talking about signage in terms of, I remember Carol Canterbury was concerned about using that corner as, we use the banners there, and that's just another place for signage. I thought that's what she was referring to. I wasn't necessarily, I don't remember hearing about the electronic message board, but I just remember saying, oh, yeah, that corner really does offer another place for banners, and it doesn't take, I don't think the intense labor that does to climb up on the pole. So I don't remember the electronic message board. I'm not.
It's something you program remotely, I'm assuming,
Well,
right?
either that or walk by and put a chip in,
Yeah.
a SIM card or something.
I'm not like dead set against it.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm just thinking if we want to do it, I wouldn't want to spend a whole lot of time, staff time on it.
The committee will be doing the legwork,
Yeah.
so this is a
Right,
great way
right.
to, the volunteer
I'd
committee.
have them consider it.
Yeah, have them consider it, sure. And I'll remind the public that that's something that's being funded by the foundation, so that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, it would be all on our budget,
Right.
so we'll see. They may not go for it. I'm pretty much in agreement with everyone on the reverse 911. It's a no-brainer, should do it. Price looks okay. The app, I don't use apps very often, but my son and every friend of his uses them. That's how they live. I suspect the younger the citizen, the more they use apps, so I think we probably ought to have it.
We've already paid for it, just to
Yeah.
clarify. It's just a matter of allocating some staff time to getting it up and running, which is, it's not a high priority, but we've already paid for it, so.
The banner poles, I'd like to have a banner pole, frankly. I think it would be great, but I don't think it would really add, I don't really believe it would add to our ability to communicate. I think it would just be kind of cool to have, but we don't spend $26,000 to be cool. That's a little frivolous. So I wouldn't support that.
Okay. So this appears there's consensus for the reverse 911. And we'll continue with the things that are currently in the works that we've already paid for. And that's it at this point. We won't bring banner poles back.
Okay.
And we'll have the committee look at whether or not they can fit a message board and what it would cost in the Christian Court.
Just as a side note, and again, the reason I was talking about the direction of apps versus web accessible, I don't even know what the correct word is, but our website is web capable, correct? Yes.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Mobile capable, okay. So I just wanted to underscore the fact that, not that apps don't exist anymore, people don't use it, but people tend to go to a website and making sure that it's capable on a mobile phone, so.
Okay, are there any items for new business in the future? Hearing none, is there a motion for adjournment?
To go to
Oh,
close, recess
right,
to
we have
closed
to-
session.
I'm sorry, we have to recess to closed session. Thank you to the public.